All right. Well, let's see. It is Monday, December 6th at 8:30. And at about 6:52, our esteemed host lets me know that the old back is tightening up again, and he is unable to join us. So you'll have to deal with me doing my best to ramble on and pretend like I know how to host a podcast, knowing that I'm the producer, but we'll try to get through this. So, Mike, hope you feel better soon. A couple bits of advice for you. It is called Diamond Dallas Page's yoga. Works really well for, when you get on the other side of 40, which you are recently on the other side of 40, really helps you all loosen up, get you back together. Diamond Dallas Page yoga.
I couldn't tell you the last time I heard that DDP name. It's got to be forever. So much props to DDP getting a little shout out on our show, man.
Hey, man, his yoga program has done wonders for a lot of people who have old rickety backs. So I've tried it. It's actually tough, but really? it's good for you. Oh yeah. Yoga. Yeah. Get on that mic so you can stop having me do this weird hosting thing, which it's not really something that I think I'm 100% built for. But the good thing though is that means the three of us can ramble on about the recent ups and downs. I could say more downs recently of Arsenal. One thing I'm going to say before I turn this over to you guys for your input is I kind of have a feeling like we were due. There were a lot of wins we were getting and a lot of points we were picking up that were very, very ugly, kind of like grinded out games, which I was very happy to see the team do. But one thing I kept saying is going to bite us is basically Aubameyang not scoring goals and the lack of goals. If you look at the Arsenal's goal differential, we're at -4. We've scored 14 goals. That's it. I can't recall a season where after 15 games, Arsenal has scored 14 goals. That's just not going to cut it. And if you told me, if a team that scores 14 goals, that's it, and it's still in 7th place, it's not, I'm not going to act like the sky is falling or that this team is in such great turmoil like we like to do it in the Premier League. But I think I had a feeling that the lack of goals was eventually going to bite us in the butt. And sorry, Aubameyang, this falls at your feet. You're 250 pounds a week, 250,000 pounds a week. You signed the big deal. You scored 50 goals in an Arsenal uniform in the Premier League. I think faster than anybody had scored 50 goals. And now you scored 4 this season.
And he wears a Captain Armband on his sleeve, quite often lately. So what does that say?
And look, I applaud his effort. You can't say that he's not trying. That guy is running up and down the field like he's 19, trying to break into the first team. He's trying, but that's just not good enough anymore, especially when you are on the wrong side of 30. It's just not going to cut it. You have to put the ball in the net. Go watch some Jamie Vardy videos or something. That guy can't stop scoring, and he's 35, 36. Just figure it out. Score the goals. So, Sean, you've probably been a bit more in tune with this than I think I have recently. I will love your take on it. What's going on? And was a bit of a lipstick on a pig going on with Arsenal over the past few months, or are we truly seeing a squad that is eventually going to come into form?
Yeah, it's a bit of lipstick on a very ugly pig as well, unfortunately. By the way, another thing about Mike's back, if he another way to fix his back would to get him to be chased by 20 irate Liverpool fans. That'll get him going. That'll get the back going.
That'll loosen him up.
I think we're obviously, the three of us are probably feeling quite hurt. It's not as though we haven't seen this before with Arteta in terms of sort of, losing games that we expected to get points from. And it's disappointing because only 2 weeks ago, we looked as though we were on a bit of a charge for that, potentially for a 4th place that looks up for grabs. But here we are only a few games later, and it looks as though we're slowly disappearing from that particular race. Funny enough, I spoke to a friend of mine who was very irate with Aubameyang for the Man U game, but I think it's a little bit unfair tonight as he didn't start. I know he came on for the last 20 minutes. I agree that there is a problem generally with scoring, and at the moment the way the team's set up, if you think about how Aubameyang got most of those 50 goals, which made him the quickest scorer in our history in the Premier League, a lot of it was, balls over the top, balls across the penalty area. We're not putting balls over the top. That's not the way we're playing anymore. So either we got the wrong guy up front, which it appears that we do at the moment. There are some strange decisions. I don't understand why we put on Nketiah for the last 2 games when he said he's leaving the club. So do you really want players who, are potentially not going to give their all if they've already decided to leave? It's a real hard one. I thought in my head that if Swiss Xhaka had played against Man U, would have won that game. And here he is out on the pitch tonight, and we still lose the game. And he certainly didn't look on top form. So, very depressed. I think the only other reason I came on today was that I realised that we don't have any Everton fans on the pod, thank God, because I think that might have swayed my mind somewhat about what positives are there to say. I like the fact that we're giving Martinelli a chance, and we'll need him in January when we lose Aubameyang and Partey and El Neni. So we've got to get the guys out there. But the trouble is, we've now got another 5 league games between now and the end of December, and it's not a great way. Normally November was our bad month. Mm-hmm. Now we might be shifting that to December. So I don't know. G, have you got any positives you can add? You can probably tell by the tone of my voice that I'm.
Yeah, I thought 2 great positives is that VAR disallowed 2 of their goals. But besides that, it was a crap defense. You talked about Swiss and Swiss cheese. That's exactly what our defense looked like. It was awful marking. Richarlison is a phenomenal player. If you get any kind of chance or space, he's gone. He's really quick. He's got a rocket of a shot, and he had plenty of space. And he owned us. He more or less tore our defense apart. I don't know why he put Xhaka in. I'm still not a fan, and stuff like that. I wish he would keep the same line up as much as possible. Young team, let's keep them, let them have ups and downs together. And Aubameyang, like you guys talked about, he's a little bit older. Yeah, he got, the first 50 goals the fastest. But it seemed like when you get a big, huge contract coming over from another league, you're running on all, every cylinder is going right now. You're going through the roof with all your stats, and all of a sudden it just kind of peters off. But he dropped off real quick. Now, I think it could be an age thing, but also you don't have a lot of motivation behind you because our long balls are absolutely one of the worst in the entire league. So he's not getting part of his game. He's getting frustrated. He's running to this ground. We're running an old man into a ground. If he comes off the bench, which now I kind of see him as kind of be a role player kind of moving forward, is if we kind of get 2 studs, hopefully studs, strikers, keep on Aubameyang off the bench, have him come off the 60th minute, use his speed. But he's not our number 1 guy anymore. It just, for whatever reason, it just seems like he's kind of losing just, a little touch. Now, it's a different game than what he was used to when he came on a couple of years ago. So I don't know if it's an Arteta thing. I don't know if he's trying to, still kind of do his game, trying to do, what he thinks is the right thing is forward. But something needs to change. Either he needs to have a different role or sell him off or something like that. But he's just not getting us the points that we need, the goals that we need. We have 14 goals in 15 games. That's 500 avenue right there. And I thought we were a little better than that, and yeah, we're going to have the ups and downs. And instead, you talked about this great run we had, but who did we really play that was really tough?
Oh, we have
18 goals.
Spurs 3-1.
We have 18 goals in 15 games. I said that wrong. 18 goals, yeah, my bad.
18 goals.
Yeah.
Oh, but still in my book,
that's not that
barely scoring one.
It's not that much better. It's not
that's
that much better.
That's 500 still, in my world. And right there, you're looking at 9th, 10th, 11th, or whatever in the whole league. And if we're going to be now that Leicester City, that we're okay with it. Now Leicester City seems like, the old us, or now what's it? Aston Villa's now us. I'm sorry, the Hammers. Now they're us. We need to catch up to them now. What happened to they used to catch up with us? So something needs to change, but our offense is just piss poor. Besides today, I still like our defense. They've been playing very well together. So they can't be perfect every game. It's part of the Premier League. Sometimes you have some of these mediocre teams who destroy you. Sometimes you have one player just to figure you out. Maybe this was just that one game. So we played some crap teams before. I know we beat Spurs 3-1, but that could be we could be in the last place. They could be in first place. We could win 5-0. That's a different kind of game. But something needs to change our offense. Let's get Shaka back on the bench, or now let's get rid of him. I do like the 4-2-3-1 formation. I do like having the 4 in the back. That really just solidifies what we've been asking for years. Is we need to have a defense to shut down their offense so we can have one goal and they can have 0. So hopefully we're kind of on the ebb and flows right now. I think we're on our way down a little bit. When can we stop that to kind of come back up? So it's part of the road of a young team. Part of a young team kind of lumps and bumps along the way.
That's true. Yeah, I think all those are great points. I don't want to get. I guess this is what happens when you get a little bit of success. You start believing that your team is farther along in their process than they are. But again, at the beginning of the season, when we were down, way down, and now we're in 7th in December. I mean, it's still not that bad. Mm-hmm. And Sean, you've said this on multiple occasions that we're still a couple of transfer windows away from truly competing for the top 4. And everyone, especially everybody on the chat line, is really in agreement about that. It's like, this is still a work in progress. We have the youngest team in the Premier League, and that's with starting a 32-year-old striker. So there's still a lot of growth that needs to happen. I will never ever be on the Arteta out bandwagon. I think that's ridiculous. I think that now.
But seasons like this and what we're going through right now is going to be awesome for those 4 windows to people to come in.
Right.
We keep our core to build that confidence to go through these times right now. You add these pieces in later, and we're going to say good, like Sean said, we're going to be top 4 and fight for number 1 if not.
Right.
So I hate going through these as a fan.
Yeah.
But big picture, I get it.
And I can say for the first time in a while, I like the guys on the squad. There really isn't anyone that I really just go other than Granit Xhaka when he gets a yellow card. But other than that, I do. They seem to really play for each other. They seem to really want each other to be successful in a manner where, I mean, when you look back at the Alexis Sanchez days where they may have had a little bit more success, you could see the tension in the team, and you could see that they really weren't clicking the way they could have been, because I feel like that team should have had more success than they did. So at least I feel like this is a dip, but Arsenal is trending in the right direction. And I'm looking forward to having the same conversation in a year and see what this squad could really look like. Because I don't see any of those, our young core of Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe, Martin Odegaard. I see all those guys staying and wanting to really build something successful here. And, we can get our core like we had back in the day, and even get that kind of like that Man U core where they had all those young guys in the 90s who grew up together and became an amazing squad. So there's definite optimism, I think. Sean, why don't you have the last say on Arsenal, and then we'll
the last say is really, it's all going to be about Saturday. It's all going to be about at home to Southampton. This is a very, very big game for Arteta. He can't afford to lose the Emirates crowd.
No.
So if you think about all the results, our losses have predominantly come away from home. So we can see we've got a problem. And even Arteta looked nervous tonight, watching him on the sidelines. So we need him to man up a bit. Put some of the younger, put maybe Lokonga back in midfield on Saturday. But it's a big game, and let's not forget that Southampton are going to press the crap out of us again on Saturday. And we need those 3 points. We're back to we were against Norwich. And the only other thing to look forward to is at least we're at home in the quarterfinals of the Worthless Cup against Sunderland. So we might have a semi-final to look forward to.
That's true. That's true. I will say, I will say this too. There's just one thing that's just bugged me about Arsenal is like, stop being scared of the big boys. Stop being afraid. Stop being afraid. It's funny. If there's any squad that Arsenal should feel like they have nothing to lose against, it should be the teams that they think they can't compete with anyway. So, go out there and try stuff, play, have fun. I mean, you're not expected to win anyway. And by the way, one of the last points, how the hell did Godfrey not get sent off? I've never seen anything like that in my life. Yeah, I was avoiding that intentionally because I don't like I don't like
VAR
to.
looked at
But
it and didn't see anything wrong. I tell you what, I'd like to fucking see who's in the VAR box and go up and kick his head in and say, "Oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that."
Right. Absolutely. Well,
Anyway, enough.
We'll put a bow on Arsenal until at least we haven't needed therapy for quite a while. So that's been a good thing. So but G and Sean, please hang as long as you like. Sit here with me, and then if you guys need to cut out,
Can't wait to hear about Scotland.
But that's the thing. I mean, this is the best part of the show right now, man. I mean, we've had, the fun thing about what's going on in the SPL is we're getting some goals. They're scoring a lot of goals up there. So, Cam, outside of Celtic, we'd love for you to discuss the other games, especially how my boys took a butt whipping to Aberdeen. So, Cam, how are we doing today?
Yeah, doing well. I think that game, the one you just brought up, was one of the more notable games. A 4-1 loss there, or I should say a 4-1 win for Aberdeen. That was definitely a fantastic game. Yeah, no, it was really, really. I thought it was a good game.
Aberdeen really kind of needed that game after losing 3 straight and getting a win. They needed another win. They really did.
Yeah, and it's been a while since they had a game that high scoring. I think the last time they got 4 goals was, I actually don't even know if it was at the beginning of the season. It might have been last season. So, that good on them for that. And who knows? I mean, in the coming week, they're playing St. Johnstone. So, St. Johnston's third from the bottom. Yeah, so that could be another situation where they rack up a few goals there with that. But I mean, overall, the coming week is somewhat not the best matchup of games. It's teams from kind of the top half of the second half. A lot of the talk right now is transfer news in Scotland. The biggest transfer news is actually coming out of Celtic, looking to bring in 3 more J-League players, including I think it's Heisen Maeda, who just won the Japanese Golden Boot, 22 goals in 36 games. So they're looking to lock that down, as soon as possible. And then we're bringing in a midfielder, Hatate, and then Idigichu, who is a left back but plays a fantastic wing back. So a lot of interesting moves on Angie from pulling from the J League. Similarly, Gerrard is already looking back to Rangers to try to scoop up some players and bring them to Villa. There's been talk of some Patterson going up there, which I think Patterson's a phenomenal player. He's a Ger, but I think he's an absolutely fantastic young Scottish player, and I think he'd do really, really well down south, getting that kind of EPL exposure, and I think he'd be very beneficial for the national team moving forward. So those are really the big things. And then also Lyon Rangers and Celtic Real Betis. That game's not going to benefit us, but I think those are going to be 2 really good games. We get to see how Gio does playing in European football. This will be his first game having taken over Rangers. So let's see if he can overturn that last 2-1 they had with Lyon. Or 2-0, I should say.
So I didn't ask this when we first started talking about this, but can you potentially give us a bit of information on how does this first and second phase thing work? Because you are right. I mean, it was a lot of chalk this weekend in Scotland, so probably not a whole lot of big stories from the game's perspective, but I don't understand what this is. So are there 2 seasons in 1 season? Like what's going on here?
Yeah, so it's odd. Essentially, it's called the split. And the top half kind of breaks away from the bottom half, and those teams all play each other once. And what happens is basically you can't move out of your top half league and your bottom half league. So at that point in time, those in the top half are always going to be in the top half, even if one team gets, team number 6 gets less points than the team that's in 7th, team 6 will still stay in 6th. They can't move down into 7th, and 7th can't move up into 6th.
So does that reset every summer?
So that's So come the new league, it's all back to scratch. But it happens after. I'm trying to think how many games it happens after. I want to say 33 games is when that split occurs, and it's just the weird number of games that we want to play and the number of teams that we have. Yeah, it's something that's been very controversial for a while in Scotland. People really want to get rid of it, but then people also say, well, we want to still keep watching as many games as possible. So it would have to take, I think it's a 11 out of 12 majority to get rid of the split, and it's never come close. Yeah.
So how many games take place in the second phase? Because I see there's 33 games in the first phase.
Yeah, so I believe it's 6 in the second phase.
Oh, okay. So it's not because I'm seeing the games are going on up until about April. And then
games.
The second phase started.
They only play each other once.
Okay. And so
the last time I heard of the split, I think I was in Spearmint Rhinos. It's a very odd name, isn't it, to call it the split?
It's one of the weirdest concepts of football, and I actually don't know if there's another league in the world that does it.
No.
It's wild. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know Liga MX they almost do like 2 leagues a year or something like that. And it's not, I feel like this is a little bit more complicated than
Yeah, I mean the way that the point system works in terms of you can't, if we have, say, St. Mirren in 6th after the split, and we've got Hearts in 7th, and St. Mirren ends up with 26 points and Hearts ends up with 30 points, they're stuck where they are. St. Mirren saved and Hearts is just screwed, stuck in that 7th place no matter what. They can only shift around within their halves, and I'm telling you, man, it's one of the weirdest situations.
Yeah.
How about the money difference for for media and stuff like that? Is there a huge amount difference between them?
Gee, I'll tell you this right now. There is not a lot of money in.
Agree. But I'm just saying, if there, but is there you can see that there's a difference, like maybe a couple $1,000, or is there no significance whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably in the range of,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I honestly, I should look it up at some point. I would have to imagine it's in the range of 5 figures, like an extra 10, 20, 30, something like that.
Nice little chunk, little advantage chunk kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, for these smaller Scottish teams, that's a big deal.
Yeah, most definitely.
An extra, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 for a team like St. Mirren, that'd buy them a player.
Yeah.
So, it is a big deal, but God knows, I have to look up who came up with this split idea, and why they came up with it. I think it was just to extend the season and make sure.
It's probably a Rangers fan.
Yeah, it probably was, honestly.
Yeah.
Just to give them the extra edge, that they need.
Make some more money. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, you didn't really talk about the future game on Sunday between 2 great battling Hercules of teams, the Motherwells of Scotland and Celtic.
Yeah, so that's going to be, I think that's after our Real Betis game, if I believe. Yeah. That one I'm hoping is going to be pretty clear cut. I think Motherwell is in 4th right now, if I remember correctly.
Tied, yeah.
Yeah, tied for 4th. Okay.
Here I'm saying we, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I think that game's going to be interesting, especially because we have some pretty big players out. Jota went out with an injury. Ralston went out with an injury. Welsh went out with an injury, and Forrest went out with an injury. So, I think Real Betis is going to be. It's going to be interesting to see who we play. If we play a lot more first team players, because Angie again wants to prove he can do it in Europe, or if we maybe rest some of them, play some of the younger guys, and keep some of those more first team players for that Motherwell game, because that's an easy slip up right there. G, you make a great point. And we're only 4 points behind Rangers, and that could be a really easy place for us to slip up, lose points, even if it's 2 points.
Well,
I mean,
Cam, you gotta send some energy to Hearts though, because Hearts is in 3rd and they're playing Rangers this weekend. So and they're playing Rangers at home. So at Hearts. So that could be a definite gap closer if Hearts could manage to pull out a win. But Hearts they're 3rd. So
exactly.
They're doing something right. What do you see about that game?
Yeah, and that's the game that I was going to suggest in terms of the league. That's the big one coming up, because you're absolutely right. If we beat Motherwell, Rangers lose to Hearts, that's a point gap right there. That sets us up beautifully for the Christmas derby on January 2nd. So, I think this is the point where I'm hoping that there's a big slip up on Rangers' part here.
That may be my Sunday morning early wake up game. I might have to tune into that. I'm not sure which. ESPN carries a whole bunch of different games. Sometimes you'll get one, so maybe that might be one we can tune into. But any last questions or thoughts for Cam? I know, Sean, you often like to get Cam's perspective on something. I see maybe looking at the lines and seeing what he could offer.
I'm trying to see his glasses and see what he's looking at. Yeah.
No, I'm very happy to see an ex-junior in charge of Rangers. Been following them a little bit, and I think he'll do well. He had a very good. Did he win the league with Feyenoord one season? Van Bronckhorst?
I'm not 100% sure. I will say he's had a fantastic start at Rangers so far. He hasn't lost a game yet, and he's taken over in a tumultuous time for them.
So he also had a legendary goal in the 2010 World Cup, so he's going to live in infamy forever.
To be fair, Scotland isn't the same without Celtic and Rangers battling the shit out of each other. So I'm glad to see that it's gone back to, it did last season as well, back to the good old days. And let's hope there's a good punch up on the 2nd of Jan as there normally is. Is it at Celtic Park or is it at Ibrox?
This one is at Celtic Park, I believe.
Is it?
The last one was at Ibrox, yeah. But to your point, I said that earlier in the podcast, or earlier in the season. I'm actually happy that Rangers are back up and we actually have a proper league, because it was, I love Celtic winning, obviously, but it just wasn't the same. I mean, our toughest competition. Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. There's more of that, and it's just, I mean, there's nothing like the Glasgow Derby. There really isn't.
Yeah, that's.
I've been lucky enough to attend 4 or 5 of the New Year derbies, and
wow.
Yeah, they are very, very special.
Yeah, that's definitely like I would feel remiss if I didn't get a chance to actually go to one of those and just see. And I don't know what side I would sit on. I'd probably just wear black the whole time as to not get too involved, but I would just want to be in that environment. And yes, Van Bronckhorst did win the title at Feyenoord with his second season and their first title in 18 years. So
good manager.
All right. Well, Cam, thanks a lot for joining us today. Your Scotland updates are always a highlight of the show. And we'll probably
Europe.
Say again?
Up the hoops in Europe.
Absolutely. So Cam, we'll get you on next week and send some positive vibes to Mike as he is unable to join us today. But as I said, Mike, Cam also agrees, yoga. So Cam, have a good one, brother. Take care.
Have a good night, guys.
All right. So we will shift gears here and move directly into the Bundesliga report with Bayern Rob. And here he is. I'm always wondering which jersey is Rob going to be rocking?
I'm rocking Opal today.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Very old school. Yeah.
Could you turn your mic up a little bit? Just a little low.
Oh, there you are.
There you go.
Now.
Awesome. Thank you. So it seems like we're seeing I don't want to say a carbon copy, but we're seeing teams that come up there and they try to swing with Bayern Munich and end up getting a jab to the nose and a hook to the body. And next thing you know, Bayern is starting to pull away. So, Rob, go ahead, man. Fill us in on the ups and downs of the Bundesliga week.
Well, I mean, it's been a chaotic weekend. Obviously we've had the Klassiker between Bayern and Dortmund. 3-2, Bayern won. The deciding goal was a Lewandowski penalty, decided by a handball in the box by Mats Hummels, who his best years are behind him. He looked awful. He gave up two mistakes that led to 2 goals, and then he had the handball. All right. No excuse whatsoever. It was just bad. And Dortmund came to play, and it was a great game to watch. If you're neutral, it was a lot of back and forth. The ref was letting him play. According to Jude Bellingham, he did not like that, and the calls were kind of off. And Jude Bellingham made some interesting comments about the refereeing, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, which kind of took the air out of the match, because it really was a good match. But Dortmund they have so many weapons, and they're missing a few in Giorena and Hazard as well. But their defense is just so bad. They're not organized at all, and it's a shame because they probably could have pulled it out if they just played like maybe 15% more defense. They would just they it was bad. And and now they have Holland back, and if those who watch, Holland had a beautiful one touch bending of a ball. That I mean, I was at the bar and I stood up and clapped. Like it was a beautiful performance. It was a lovely. Please find it on social media. It's a beautiful goal to watch. Neuer had no chance at it whatsoever. Um, but just going back to what Jude Bellingham said, so he made a reference to the referee who was involved in a match fixing scandal many years ago, around 2005, around the time that Germany was going to host the World Cup. And what happened with that was he was an assistant referee. He accepted money and he turned a blind eye to match fixing. And so he got suspended. And kind of everybody was kept on a hush hush as far as his punishment goes and what he did wrong until after the World Cup. And then it became known. Jude Bellingham alluded to that. And thus, it became a big firestorm. People started talking about his comments more than the actual match itself. And then there was some talk about potentially Jude Bellingham being fined or something, but it looks like nothing's going to happen because he pretty much stated a fact. He wasn't liable at all. The guy wasn't involved in match fixing. The guy was suspended for a bit, and not only is he a Bundesliga ref, but he's also a FIFA ref, which is interesting enough. Why he is given these games, I have no idea. I don't know how they choose referees in the Bundesliga, but apparently the referee was atrocious because it was very inconsistent. If you watch it, there was plenty of times where he let him play, and then plenty of times with a lot of ticky-tack fouls. The biggest issue was the missed penalty of Marco Reus. Now, Marco Reus got brought down in the box from a looked like behind the back tackle by Lucas Hernandez. But ref called it off. He said, nope, no foul whatsoever. On replay, it looked like Marco Reus was a tad offside, and VAR probably would have caught that, but the Dortmund bench was livid. They were just really upset. So upset that Marco Rosa, the manager, he got a yellow, and then later on got another yellow and got sent off with 5 minutes to go in the match. So it had everything. It had bad refereeing, it had fast-paced action, Lewandowski scoring beautiful goals, Haaland scoring beautiful goals, and the manager being sent off. What more can you want?
So there were also, as you know, I love when you give details on the other teams in the Bundesliga, because we can easily just talk Borussia Dortmund, Bayern Munich all the time. But, you were making some comments, Chad. You were talking about what has happened to Mönchengladbach and their complete thrashing by Freiburg, who, you've been very, very pro Freiburg a lot in the past year or so.
I'm impressed with them because they've had the same manager for like almost like a Sir Alex was. Sir Alex was the manager at United for ever, and the same manager is there. He's just hanging out there. I forget. Let me pull up his name. Christian Streich. He's been there for seems like a decade easily. And if he's had ups and down seasons, but he's always stayed. But this season is something different about this squad. And there's been no better evidence than the thrashing that they gave to Gladbach. 6-0 at the half. At the half. I mean, it ended 6-0, but at the half it was 6-0. It was bad. And Gladbach had the possession. They had accurate passes, and even Freiburg had less than 3 expected goals, and they scored 6. Adi Hütter, who left Frankfurt to go to a bigger job in Gladbach, looks a little bit out of his depth, and it's a mystery to him because he has the players. I think he's a quality manager, but Freiburg is on something else. And sometimes when when a team gets on a streak and everybody's playing together and you really can't concentrate on a player on a player or two, then magical things happen. And I think they're led by two the amazing defensemen in Schlotterbeck and Gunter. So Schlotterbeck is the center back, Gunter is the left back. Quality performances all around. Schlotterbeck even scored a goal as well. Gunter had an assist. I mean, who didn't have a part in the goals? There were 6 goals for crying out loud. So it's beautiful. And what the beauty of it is that the winter break is a short one. It's not the traditional 4 weeks, it's 2 weeks. So typically when these teams that don't have star power, that are not like, been together for a long time, the winter break kind of messes them up if they are on a streak. It's a short winter break, and I think they'll do fine. And it really is, I feel, is their race to lose for fourth. They might make European squad. Right now they're in fourth in the Champions League, but they have an excellent shot to make Europe, which would be fantastic. I mean, they'll party in the streets for a weekend if that happens.
It's also a good bounce back. I mean, they had lost their 3 previous games, and to see a team that looks like they're maybe punching a couple of weight classes above their weight, who took some L's, to respond the way they did against a pretty consistently competitive Bundesliga squad, to put in 6 is that's a strong showing. That's a strong showing. So should that be the team outside of the big 2, maybe even big 3 up in Germany that we should be paying attention to?
Yes, but also the one creeping up is Hoffenheim again. It's led by Sebastian Hoeneß. This is second year as a manager, after taking the Bayern reserve squad to the 3rd division title. And for all us Americans, we know Hoffenheim because that's where Chris Richards plays. So on loan from Bayern Munich. So they're doing well. They're creeping up there again. So it's a cluster over there for the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th spots, because you also got Union Berlin in there as well. So for Freiburg, they have a really tough last few games before the winter break. They got Hoffenheim, which is a big match, right? They got Union, who's up there as well, and they got Leverkusen. Leverkusen, who has Patrick Schick on a roll, along with Florian Wirtz. Leverkusen is hot again. They're doing excellent, and they're finally getting their role again after being smacked by Bayern like several weeks ago. And so Freiburg, that's a hard schedule for them. If they could get 5 points out of that, I mean, that's a win for them. So I look to see if they're remaining 4th or 5th after these 3 games. It's going to be a really nice ride in the second half of the season for them.
Go ahead.
I've got a question, Rob. I'm looking at the table. So there was often debates about teams that start very poorly in the Premier League, and will they beat Derby's record, I think, of 11 points. I noticed that after 14 games, Greuther Fürth have got 1 point.
That was my exact question. I was just about to bring them up.
Is that setting some sort of record already or not?
No, you know what it is, because sadly enough, they'll probably break the record that Schalke had, because they were a couple, I think last season or so, they were awful. They were just really, really bad. No, I think they'll win a game or 2. But they're not a Bundesliga squad. I mean, they're here, but they really don't belong here. I mean, it was a fluke that they're here. Like another squad, like a Schalke would have done better, I think, here in the Bundesliga than Greuther Fürth. They're just bad.
They're getting destroyed, though. I mean,
they're getting minus 34 goal
exactly.
difference. Minus 34. I mean, and Julian Green's there, who, for us Americans over here, and he's not even really playing anymore. He was starting every match.
Talk about a fall off, Julian Green.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
He was starting every match for when they were in the 2nd division, but now he started the first few games, and it's been here and there a spot start, but they're just atrocious, man. I mean, they're just being spanked around. And by the way, Dortmund have them coming up after they have 3 easy games coming up. They have Bochum coming up, and Greuther Fürth, and Hertha Berlin. So So it looks like Bayern and Dortmund are going to solidify themselves as a 1 and 2 by the winter break, because Dortmund should easily get like the minimum 6 points. They really could get 7 or 9 out of those 3 games. And so once again, Haaland will probably score a hat trick on Greuther Fürth. And they'll just be the laughing stock again. Just the punching bag being smacked around in the Bundesliga. And then the other big story for us here in America is Jesse Marsch being sacked by Leipzig.
I didn't know that happened. Wow.
Yeah, he got the boot. And it came out that a couple times beforehand he met with the higher ups and he kind of said that he doesn't think he might be the right fit for this club. So the official word is that they mutually agreed to part ways. So he's not on the bench anymore. But based on those reportings, it looks like he had his doubts as well. So I know a lot of people talked about Sabitzer, leaving, Owen McConnell leaving, and Julius Nagelsmann leaving as well, and Konate as well had left. And so, but they spent some good money, and Jesse Marsch was brought in to really, they gave him the tools to do something with it. But I think his approach was a little bit flawed. He really wanted to take it back to what Leipzig did, but I think that the club as a whole kind of went past that. They've had a few years with Nagelsmann. They have evolved as a footballing power. And so they needed a manager kind of to take the baton and continue the race. What Jesse Marsch did, he wanted to go back to the old racetrack, and that didn't work out. So his reputation is a little bit in shatters, but I'm looking forward to him potentially getting another Bundesliga job, either in the first or second division. And I think he'd be good for like a Schalke, for example. I think he'd be good for a club like that. Especially if they stay in the second division, it'd be good for them because he'll have not as much like kind of like hype or like spotlight on him. He could really mold the club to how he wants it, and then they're still a reputable club. The Schalke has a name, so you can't bring in players as well. So look, so that's the type of job that I hope that Jesse Marsch gets. But
yeah, it's a bit sad though, because he's been with that Red Bull organization with 3 different clubs for quite a long time. So it's an unceremonious end to what seemed like a good relationship as far as like the overarching company and the clubs that they support. But you still have to, at least as an American, it's great to see any sort of coach get a real opportunity to coach at multiple levels in Europe. So yeah, I was going to ask you where you think he ends up, because I could easily see him landing on his feet. I just really hope he doesn't come back to the MLS. I don't want him to do that. I think he should stay over there.
He's too good.
Yeah,
to coach in MLS. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he took an assistant job somewhere and then started over again. I mean, he has shown he has a history of really humbling himself and doing the work. I mean, he went to work for Ralf Rangnick at Leipzig as an assistant manager. He left the head coaching job in MLS to go to be an assistant. He wasn't terminated. So
right.
So will he do that? I don't know if he'll do that because I think he's higher profile now, but it is an option. He can do that. I mean, look, Chris Armas, who coached New York Red Bulls, he's gonna be an assistant manager or coach for Ralf Rangnick in United. Like, can you imagine Chris Armas going from New York Red Bulls, fired, going to Toronto FC, fired as a head coach, and then ended up at United as an assistant coach, but still ended up at United. So yeah, no, there is pathways here. So I look for Jesse Marsch to rise up again, and he will be in a conversation once again. He's going to gather himself and find a job for himself.
Excellent. Well, Rob, thanks again. And again, hope you hang out for a while, because we're going to talk about MLS a little bit later. So we'll bring you back in just, I don't know, a few minutes or so, maybe about a half hour. So, but great Bundesliga report as always. But now we're going to shift back to the Premier League. And who is this guy? Have you seen this guy before? I don't know, because like I had already found I already found our Liverpool guy. I found a new guy, you know. So I thought that you know, our old guy ran off to Hawaii for nice weather and small bathing suits. But so, you know, I think it's all I think we can all say though is welcome back, British Will. And I will say this: I think in your absence, and we have been shortchanging our coverage of Liverpool, especially from the respects that it looks like Mohamed Salah is having one of the greatest Premier League seasons ever. I mean, this is up there competing with Thierry Henry's 20-20 season, and I think that it's something that everyone should be paying close attention to. And I think it's actually good that everyone's still talking Chelsea, Manchester City, and the woes of Manchester United, that Liverpool just seems to still churn along, and they are scoring, and Mo Salah looks like he is the best player in the world. So, Will, talk about whatever you want, brother.
Oh, it's pretty good to be back. You know, daylight savings comes around, and I get off work just in time to get here now. Today I got off early because we have a bit of a rainstorm going on, and apparently heavy rain is considered just the same as snow in this state. So that's fun. Anyway, yeah, no, I imagined that you were shortchanging Liverpool, and you know it's pretty common to do that this season. Liverpool was not flashy over the summer, as was well documented. Well talked about. They didn't sign too many big names. There was no Ben White for 50 million. There was no, you know, really big signings over the summer. The biggest signing over the summer was, you know, Virgil van Dijk coming back from injury, and you all saw that at the end of last season. And you've said that Liverpool's just been scoring nonstop, and they have been. They're the highest scoring team in the Premier League. You've talked about Mo Salah and how he's going for the Thierry Henry 20-20, and he's well on his way to getting there. He's over halfway with the goals, and he's almost halfway with the assists. And you know, I'm perfectly happy to sit under the radar as a Liverpool fan, talking about Manchester United versus Man City. I'm perfectly happy to sit there in what was third and is now second, just smiling away, thinking, yeah, this is a good season. Liverpool's doing well. I think that the reason that Liverpool's sitting under the radar is everyone just expects this level from Liverpool. They expect Liverpool to be up, competing with the best teams in the league, if they are not the best team in the league. And I think from a Liverpool's perspective, there are some issues. But they're only issues that Liverpool fans notice. If you're not a Liverpool fan, you think, oh, crap, there's another a powerhouse team. The only issue I'd notice is, you know, sometimes it's a bit easy to play through them. Play through the team, score a goal. That might just be because I have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to watch the games. But even I can see some of the holes that are occurring in the midfield, and the last few weeks they've been patched, but they're still there. But you know, as you say, it looks like 2013-14 Liverpool that were just scoring goals for fun. Mo Salah is top scorer in the Premier League. Sadio Mane is the third highest scorer in Liverpool's squad, and is the fourth highest scorer in the league. Diogo Jota is the second highest scorer in the Liverpool squad, and is the third highest scorer in the league. Trent Alexander-Arnold has 9 assists so far. Andy Robertson, who everyone's saying might be replaced by Kostas Tsimikas, has gotten like 4 or 5 assists in the last 2 games. So yeah, no, being a Liverpool fan right now is pretty pleasant. And that's not even mentioning the Champions League, where they're the first English team that is in the contention to go through the group winning every game, which is pretty nice, pretty pleasant to see. Because, you know, that's just like that doesn't mean anything. Obviously, it doesn't mean anything, but it's a nice side note, note.
Like the Club World Cup.
Is The Club World Cup means a bit more.
I know. I'm just taking a shot. That's all I'm doing. Let's see though. When you look at the upcoming fixtures, though, it doesn't seem like they have the most challenging games too, probably for the next 4 or 5 games. So, where do you see Liverpool January 1?
Well, up until the Wolves game, I mean, even in the Wolves game, I didn't really see Liverpool losing the Wolves game. I didn't see them drawing it either. I thought they were going to get like 3, it would be 3-1 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But then Wolves set up very well. They set up very defensively.
Which they've done a lot in the past month. That's been Wolves' MO the past month. They don't score anything, but you don't score on them either.
Yeah, and the only reason I knew that Liverpool would be all right is because the god himself stepped on the pitch, Divock Origi. And I know that, that I can now refer to the baby-faced assassin as a player again, not just a manager. He's a pretty good super sub, but who he calls for tips on how to score late big goals is Divock Origi. Because there is no goal that Divock Origi will score that could be anything other than a late big goal.
Are we watching the same games?
Yeah, you are. Divock Origi kept Liverpool in. Okay, the babyface assassin, sure. He scored a goal in the Champions League final. Liverpool wouldn't have made it to the Champions League final without Divock Origi. Divock Origi scored a goal in the Champions League final as a substitute. So, yeah, I think that we can say that Divock Origi is the best super sub in the history of the game. Wow. But that's aside.
Does he have a song?
He does.
Can you sing it, please, for us?
All time.
Wow. I could, but
volume up.
No pressure, Will. No pressure.
Volume
pressure.
No, actually, I'm going to veto that. No singing.
Yeah. You don't want to hear me sing this song.
No, I ride the bus with children too often to hear them sing their crappy songs. If I can avoid hearing someone sing, I take full advantage. In fact, it's so bad the music I listen to rarely ever has words. So, Will, continue.
But where do I see Liverpool at the end? The hardest game they have coming up, I'd say, is Villa, and that's somewhat
the hardest game. Gerrard's going to fall over for you, for fuck's sake. He wants the manager's job there, doesn't he? He's going to come and lose 6-0 and apologise to Villa fans.
It's going to be very difficult because you don't really know. You don't really know what to do when Steven Gerrard comes back to Anfield. Do you give him the captain's armband? Does he play? What happens? Does he manage the first half for Villa, come on for the second half for Liverpool? I mean, you don't really know the case there. So it's going to be a bit confusing for Liverpool fans. We're a bit conflicted coming up to the next Premier League match. But the next difficult match is January 2nd. And yes, I do include the fact that we are playing Tottenham in between now and January 2nd, but
as Tottenham. You should beat Tottenham. I mean, you should. I'm sorry. There is a clear difference between the top 3, and then there's West Ham, and then there's everybody else. I'm so glad Andy's coming on this week because I think we can all consider that what West Ham is doing is actually remarkable. But
I mean, West Ham is the only team to have beaten Liverpool this season, and Liverpool has played everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. But think about it. West Ham's beaten Liverpool and Chelsea.
And Tottenham.
Yeah. So that's. I'm sorry. I mean, but again, we'll wait for Andy to get on before we talk about that. But so. Well, let me.
I'd say that Liverpool has a chance to be top.
That's what I wanted to hear. That's what I was waiting to hear. Yeah.
I think they have a very good chance to be top based on their fixtures compared to everyone else's. Compared to Chelsea, compared to Man City. That being said, would I see them in either second? I'd see them in second now because Chelsea's dropped points. I don't see Liverpool dropping points over the Christmas period. But then again, this is the time of the year that Jurgen Klopp throws a hissy fit and decides to field a team of children on Boxing Day. So you never know. Yeah. But I don't really see Liverpool dropping points before January 1st.
Yeah,
I'm glad to see your optimism hasn't diminished since we last saw you, Will, because I think your last prediction on this pod was Liverpool were going to go unbeaten, whenever that was.
Well, I mean, they basically have. It's only West Ham. As we've said, West Ham is doing something incredible. And Sean, I don't know if you know this, but as every Liverpool fan says, this year's our year.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I know that we've eventually won the league after 30 years, but this year, I promise you, this year is our year.
This is your year, okay.
Well, I think that at least we can say this, that outside of so many other leagues right now, we can say that we are very happy that we have at least some level of uncertainty on who's going to win the Premier League. Because as we finish talking with, Rob, who's currently off camera right now, we already know who's going to win the Bundesliga. So at least we can go from there. Will, any last words before we move on to Old Trafford?
I mean, it's pretty nice to have Chelsea Mike back up in the conversation for the top of the league. Hopefully, with good old Ralph, we won't be talking about Manchester United's relegation, and instead we'll again be talking about their contention for top four. I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue this year. But I do hope, based on my predictions, that they do get top four, so I can get some points in our little league of predicting the Premier League.
Yeah, I think I'm already relegated, so I'm not even going to comment on that anymore. But
right, I'm currently in last place, so
yeah. Well, you and I don't know why I'm still in the top division, because I haven't been higher than sixth, I think, since September. So we'll see.
You don't get relegated until the end of the season, Stead.
I know. I thought we're splitting the league in two. We're doing our own splitsville for our league. So I think after the first 19 games, I'm going to get kicked out, and I'm going to be competing with Larry.
You're going to be competing with me down in the bottom.
Yeah. Well, the other league's even harder because Larry's got like 120 points. He keeps winning. So we'll see.
Well, he is from Manchester City, so he's obviously bribing the league.
That's absolutely true. He's sending oil money checks down to down to Los. So, all right. Well, we're glad to have you back. And as the top three continues to set the standard and have the drama that's looking like the Premier League is going to have, we will continue to have you on. So, and of course, we have another Liverpool fan that's going to be joining us as well, so we can get you two on together, so you actually can have some backup. And
Matt changes his allegiance.
No, no, we have another coach, so we got to think of a name for him. Hopefully we're going to get him on next week, so we're going to have another coach to come on. Absolutely,
coach.
So actually, still coaches right now.
Another coach.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, I've become the track coach as well, so now I'm technically a coach as well.
Oh well, we will do another track show again, like we did a couple of years ago, where we took over this show and did a track show, which was still one of the greatest podcasts we've ever recorded. Jay, you want in on that?
Oh, dude, I coached track for years and years and years. Oh, hell yeah, dude. Count me in,
All right,
man.
Cool. We're going to do a track show coming up. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks, man. We'll see you soon.
Liverpool sucks.
See you soon. No, it doesn't. Thank you.
Now, all right, let's go from one team that seems to be quite consistent to the most inconsistent squad right now that we have in the Premier League. Let's head over and talk about what's going on the red half of Manchester. So we had a recent fixture where we had Manchester United getting that new coach vibe, where a new coach comes in and all of a sudden the team decides to start playing better. And they were able to squeak out a win over Arsenal. And then you had Manchester United also getting a somewhat pedestrian win over a team that has, I think we have to give Patrick Vieira a little bit of respect here. He took a squad that everyone predicted to be finishing in the bottom three, and everyone was saying that he's been set up to fail, and he's actually turning them into a very competitive side that I think,
Agree.
Going to Selhurst Park isn't all that fun. Not that it ever was, but it's probably even worse now. So, Matt, new coach, got his first win, had the ugliest dance I've ever seen. But
I'm just all things German right now. Bad dancing, terrible jokes. It's great. I'm very happy. I really like the appointment of Ralph. I got my analytical glasses on for Ralph. I got my Hasselhoff going on down here. This is a great time. This is great. This is a great great thing for the club. It's the first smart move we've made in a very long time. It's actually great to be able to get excited about pressing and analytics and gegenpress and all of that. You talked about pedestrian win and 1-0 win and the XG really wasn't that convincing, but we had 12. We dispossessed Crystal Palace 12 times in their own half via their press. That's the most we've ever done since Sir Alex Ferguson was our coach. So it's already like making impacts and completely different play. Like, I mean, I was telling the guys in the United chat as well, and coach, like, you'll know this as well. Like, you can't just come in and just start like pressing. You're going to start seeing players fade out. And I told them, I said, watch, if they don't score like early, they're going to start fading. And we saw that about like the second half, like the end of the first half, they really started like tailing off a little bit. Passing got a little bit sloppy. Second half starts again. They're a little bit up, little bit better. But again, it's like you can tell it's starting to wear on them. Even like Ralph said in his press conference earlier the week, he said, like, Klopp, he tried to do that his first season. He just tried to come right in and do gegenpress. And he said right off the bat, his team ended up having like 8 injuries right away. It's something that you have to be very pragmatic about. It's something that's going to be, I don't want to say trust the process, but it's going to take some time. It's not something that he even said that we're going to change overnight, even 3-4 weeks. But just seeing that improvement in little adjustments that he's making, players are doing well. And everyone's talking too about Ronaldo not being able to press. And he was unbelievable that game in terms of his work ethic and his desire to kind of like go full for what the team, was asking for him to do. I'm pumped, man. I'm so pumped. This is a great hire. Not just for the 6-month period, but he's going to be here, hopefully advising, in a director of football type role. This is a great hire. As one of my Liverpool friends said, unfortunately, I think this is actually a really good hire for us. So I'm just over the moon. And yeah, in the top 4, we're coming for you. And I'm not ruling us out of, making a push late. I don't care. I'm just pumped. I'm so happy. Positive vibes only.
Well, I think if there's any season where there can be any sort of push, it's this season. I mean, you saw it just 2 weeks ago, Manchester United were in 10th and we were laughing at them. And then now they're 6th, they're 3 points out of 4th. And, it's not entirely, you're 11 points out of the title, a couple of bad weeks and anybody could be back in it. So we can all, especially me, who has been very clear about his hatred for Manchester United, can still see that anything can happen, especially with the squad that you're fielding, and like it or not, I think that a lot of superstar players may get a bad rep as being uncoachable or something like that, but it could also be, the plan has to make sense. It has to work, and Ronaldo's quite aware that he can't physically keep up that type of pace. It's just impossible. And it doesn't matter what you're when you're 36 and you've been playing professional soccer since you were 17. There's a lot of miles on those legs. It doesn't matter how good of shape you keep in. There's a lot of miles on those legs, and knees are knees, and elbows are elbows, hips are hips, and they will wear down. So the fact that he's able to play the way he is, I think is quite admirable. And the coach is able to really reach him in a manner that says, hey, I'm going to respect where you are in your career, but know that we need this as well. And that's why we have substitutes. We will use them if we need to. So what do you think, though? Well, I'm just going to ask it. What was Ole lacking? What was Ole doing so incorrectly? Because it's
just, honestly, it really does come down to tactics. Like, it does at the end of the game. It's not just even it's not, a lot of people talk about, the late substitutions, not making, but it's like, it's things where, we'd come out, in games where, we had so many comeback wins. Yeah, exactly what Will's saying right now in the chat. No plan, just vibes. Like it really kind of was. It's like, it really was all, we would hear this kind of recycled stuff of, United DNA. And there was actually a really great article I read from The Athletic talking about how, they always talk about, this Les Ferguson United DNA and this style of play, but it actually broke down about how Ferguson actually changed his style of play a ton of times. This wasn't like a Barcelona Cruyff, like tiki-taka style. Ferguson had to change all the time. When he first came on, he started, playing a specific way. Then he tried to adjust to Europe, and he got some success. He got the Champions League in '99 eventually, and then Jose Mourinho came, and he had to switch it up once again, and Wenger too. Wenger came and he had to switch everything up. So he's changed his style, even if it's small little tweaks. He changed his style a lot in terms of the way that United had played. And so this whole like United DNA thing really was just based on, kind of like, tough attitude. We're never out. And that can only get you so far. And I think that it, really did see that we had a really low, I guess, I don't want to say self-esteem, but the locker room morale was low. And the last two managers, LVG and Mourinho, and Ole comes in and is a breath of fresh air. And the players are, playing positively, but that only lasts so long. And after a while, coaches and assistants, they're going to start figuring out how you play, and being able to adapt to that, adjustment is really what, allows you to survive or not. And that's clearly what happened with Ole. Like everyone kind of this year they adjusted to United. They kind of figured them out. We came in second last year, but it was a distant second. We had hopes and we should have progressed this year, and we didn't. And instead we drastically regressed. It just showed that kind of Ole, like I'll say it too. Sean called it from the beginning. It's just we weren't gonna win anything with him. I didn't want to believe that, but it's just not. It just was. He just couldn't get over that hump. He needed to make that next step, and you could just tell he was too limited, at least in where he is as a coach right now. He needs more experience. And unfortunately, I don't think he'll ever get back to that, this chance or that type of level, but, he could still become a very good, solid coach of a mid-table team in the EPL. It's just, he's got a lot of learning to do still to adjust tactically, I think.
Yeah, I think the difficulty I was having with Ole was it just seemed like not only was he at a loss of what to do in games, but you look at his face and he just seemed so defeated. And
especially this year.
Yeah, especially this year. But you're watching a coach who is a club legend who seemed to have some awareness of what he was supposed to do when he was subbed in. I mean, he was a Divock Origi kind of player. He was a super sub who often came in and scored very, very big goals. He had kind of a Dirk Kuyt type of mystique to him. But I mean, but it just seemed odd to me where the Watford game especially. I saw players who just stood around and chased Watford. Like it's Watford. So I don't know if I see Ole even being a successful mid-table coach. I don't. He seems to be someone who should be sitting on the bench next to a coach and being possibly like a more of an assistant, more of a confidant or something like that, as opposed to actually running the show.
I could see him. I can see him honestly coaching like a team like a national team like Norway, a team that you don't have to go like week in, week out. You can
doesn't expect to actually qualify for many things either.
Yeah, or he will have. I mean, if he does go to Holland, like a lot of people are saying he might. I mean, he'll have Holland, Erling Haaland, there.
They have talent there, but
yeah, I think they could like again. I think that he could qualify. I just don't think that he would ever. He can't have the expectation of like winning a title, right? Okay, like that makes sense. Like getting qualification would essentially be like his big trophy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think that, and I'll even admit it too. It's like I didn't want to believe that. You get wrapped up in it, and when Klopp leaves next year and Gerrard's hired and Liverpool, absolutely tank. They're not going to want, to believe that Slippy G is going to to fail, but that's going to happen. Like that's just what's going to happen is what's going to occur.
Careful, Will's about to rip off his shirt.
Matt,
Will,
fans are a fickle lot, eh?
Will,
where's the love for Mark Hughes?
Okay. Matt, I just have one question.
He went to City. He sold himself for oil.
Do you think?
Matt, I still love Sparky, man. I love Sparky.
Hold on a second.
Do you think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer lost his players, especially towards the end? Because I mean, when I saw Paul Pogba go straight red in the Liverpool game, I thought, he looks pretty happy with that. When I saw Cristiano Ronaldo lose his rag and kick Curtis Jones in the dick, I thought, oh, he looks like he wants to be sent off. You know, when
I don't know. I think that I don't agree with that.
Manchester United players weren't really playing for their manager; they were playing to get their manager sacked.
See, I don't think that. Like again, I don't really think that was actually the case. I mean, you wouldn't have like players, at the end of games, when fans are booing and stuff like that. Most of the time, they'll just walk off. When you have players like telling them to like be quiet and like they clearly do like Ole, like that was a thing. But there were also rumors that they were kind of recognizing, we're limited tactically. Like he's a good guy. It's one of those things like when you make a business decision, like we don't want to have to fire you, Jim, but like the numbers aren't adding up and it's a business decision. Like it really did kind of was like the writing's on the wall, man. Like, look, we tried to give you as much time as possible, but you're just not adding it up. I'll say this though, like too, and I've had players get over intense for me. Like I've had a player get a red card for me, and like it's not like, oh, he wanted to be off. He just is like super intense and pissed off about it. And like to be honest, I've gotten red cards. Like in support of it too. Like I'm going. I'm gonna keep going.
Do you think then that Ole's likable personality has cost Manchester United?
Yeah, I also think the ineptitude of our board. When it comes to us now, it really just comes down to how can we not have to be as involved as a group and still make money, right? That's our ownership. Okay. So, if we're going to have, if we can get a coach on the cheap, that's just going to kind of run with vibes and not really, if he gets told no, he's not going to make a scene like Jose did or LVG did. This is something he's really easy to work with. It's just, honestly, I just think he was such a nice guy for the board and such a person, a puppet that would do whatever they would want him to do. Or even if he didn't agree with it, he'd kind of just accept it and just come out with a smile on his face. I think he was, again, someone that the board wanted to keep for a long time. There was also rumors too that, Woodward's supposedly coming out this year, and the last thing he wanted was,
I knew he was gay.
The last person. What?
You just said he was coming out. I knew he was gay.
Yeah, I knew it.
I knew it.
Yeah, Tom Cruise in the closet. Tom Cruise out of the closet.
Hey, careful. Careful. Keep it classy.
No, it's. I'm trying. I'm trying. It's South Park too. So yeah, I just think that I think that Woodward didn't want someone to get fired on his last action and like his last big thing. He's also kind of sneakily stayed in a lot longer than he was supposed to. He was supposed to leave into this before this season started. Now it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna leave the middle of this season. It's like, all right, when are you gonna actually leave, man? And yeah, probably never will. I'm rambling again. I do think it's the board. Well, I think that they're just honestly inept. And that's why I'm kind of pumped because hopefully, this guy who's known for building teams and building successful, not just teams, but successful systems that have such a track record of coaches that can be, connected to him and this whole network of just successful soccer that's branched out from, what he's started. That's what I'm really excited about because, obviously he can bring the system to United, but I think I trust him to also bring in the coaches and staff. Because I think, again, that's something we were really neglecting as well. It's like, I love Michael Carrick, but I'm kind of happy he stepped down, if that makes sense. I'm kind of happy he left. We've had these coaches with our backroom staff since Jose and LVG. So that's really all I'll say. I'm pumped. I'm happy. Liverpool's going to fail soon. It's going to be great. So everything's all good. Good vibes now. Vibes are back, baby. Vibes are back.
Well, Sean probably.
I'm looking at Man U's fixtures. So Norwich away, Brentford away, Brighton at home, Newcastle away, and Burnley at home. between
Yeah.
now
Top
and
of
the
the
end of
league.
December. That's got to be 15 points, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Top of the league after Brentford.
I think
Let's go.
if it's not at least 12 points, you should be disappointed. Absolutely.
We should. Yeah,
But-
absolutely.
but-
I agree.
Yeah, but all right. So we have been we've discussed a lot of our favorites, but I think the one team that has been the darling of the Premier League, this team, we got to remember they've beaten Manchester United, Manchester City, they've beaten Liverpool, they've beaten Leicester, they have beaten Chelsea. And I think the only reason why they haven't beaten Arsenal is because I don't think we've played them yet. So I think it's Andy, we've been
Next
kind of
Wednesday.
like, yeah, and if I don't even want to talk about that. So, but I said something's in the water over there at the London ground, and I don't know what's going on, but that squad looks, even when they're getting beat, they still look like they have a chance to win. The way they came back and they still were able to get a goal against Manchester City, and they know Manchester City had to be going out for blood that game after knocking them out of their own cup competition. That it's huge. So, and also, even though it was I guess it was like a not really the most pivotal game for the United States national team, to see Michael Antonio basically destroy the USMNT defense playing for Jamaica. I mean, that is a squad over there that looks like this could be a real run of a season this year. So, Andy, welcome back. It's been too long, and thanks for clearing out some time in your extraordinarily busy schedule. I'm glad college football is winding down to join us. So, Andy, what's going on? Talk to us about some West Ham.
Well, yeah, thank you. First off, it's been it's the first Monday without a head coach press conference at night, so I can finally jump on this for a while. So it's good to be back. But yeah, West Ham. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head with, and not to use a Hammers joke, but I guess I did unintentionally. But it was, I think I guess we'll go starting with the Chelsea match this weekend. They went down pretty early, 2-1 at halftime, and it never really seemed like West Ham was out of it. I think in the past it was those kind of matches where maybe West Ham was like, okay, we don't have enough of an attack, we're kind of holding on. Maybe a lucky long ball or a set piece will go our way. Instead, I mean, it was a phenomenal move for Bowen to score, and then a pretty lucky goal from Masuaku, but it still went in the net, so it counts. But it just was a completely different team than I think we've seen in recent seasons. And I know we've talked about this. I know William just sent all skill. I think even Masuaku tweeted that it was some lucking ball there too. But I think we mentioned it here, with David Moyes. I mean, this is kind of his forte with. Once he gets a team, he never really was given an opportunity like he should have been the first time he was at West Ham. They had, they saw Pellegrini on the market and had their eyes glow up for a has-been manager that did not succeed at all at the club. You bring him back, and he's finally had time to kind of mold the team the way he wants it. I don't think there's any star on the team. I guess Declan Rice could be a star at this point, but besides him, I guess you can say Antonio too, but even he is not like a huge star. It's kind of role players that really play those roles well, and I think we'll see. We'll kind of see if the injuries are kind of mounting. So can West Ham, get over those and still be pretty good? The defenses will be the difficult part, but it's a team that never looks out of a match, which is great. It's awesome to watch.
I think you can definitely see why Jesse Lingard wanted to stay, and why now he's not the happiest Manchester United player right now. But when you look at their upcoming fixtures as well, I mean, the Arsenal game is of course going to be cheeky. I mean, it's a London derby. Arsenal is extremely inconsistent, and they can play very well some days and not so well other days. But outside of that, you have Burnley, you have Norwich, Southampton, Watford, and Crystal Palace. I mean, I think maybe Crystal Palace could be a little sketchy because, look, I said this earlier in the show, but Patrick Vieira actually has Christian Benteke scoring goals, which he hasn't done in I don't know how long. So, but do you see West Ham hanging around for a bit longer? I certainly do, and I know I said earlier it seems like there's the big three: West Ham, and then West Ham, and then everybody else. So what do you see moving forward?
It's funny. I mean, West Ham is a legitimate top 4 contender, I think, which is it's weird for me to say, but they're not going to challenge for a title here. I mean, it's really the top 3 are going to stay, I think, in that group. But I think West Ham has that shot to. I mean, if they have a shot to kind of finish 4th, and it kind of goes down between. I know, Matt feels like, man, you can really go on a run, and definitely they can. If West Ham slips up a little bit, Manchester United is kind of there to pounce.
You don't want to play West Ham. You don't want to play them. You don't want to play them.
I wouldn't want to play West Ham right now if I was Manchester United.
We beat them. We beat them. So,
that was a nip and tuck match, though.
Again,
I would say,
but that's my point. You that's the one team that you were able to relatively beat. So, do you think you want to play them again? Because I don't think that would happen again.
Yeah, it's something that I think you take. I'd take a West Ham rematch against Man U right now, and I feel pretty confident. It's kind of the way it goes. But I do think West Ham, at the very least, should finish in a European place, top 4, as in finishing 4th. I don't believe anything higher than that. But 4th is technically attainable, but that's even a reach. I would figure that at some point, this will naturally kind of. Maybe the results will taper off a little bit, and maybe a 6th place is a little bit more realistic. Who knows? Maybe that's kind of where it ends up. But I would like to believe Europa League again. And who knows? Maybe we win the Europa League and we're in the Champions League.
That was going to be my next point. Yeah. They're basically through. They're dominating their group. They're 4-1 with 0 losses. They have 13 points. They've scored 11 goals, only given up 2. And it's not like they're playing against teams that don't have experience playing in that competition. So how does that look in moving forward? I mean, they can dump this game. They don't have to really worry about it. They're already through, and they're going to win the group. So it's basically like, hey, we're going to get a favorable matchup no matter what happens next.
Yeah, I truly think that maybe the Europa League stuff has been most impressive, just because there hasn't been that much squad rotation. I mean, it's David Moyes. He doesn't really rotate his squad all that much ever. It's been kind of the same core group, and the results have been, they haven't had a drop off in the Premier League. That was my main worry, I think, when we were going into the Europa League was how will this affect the Premier League form? And I kind of thought, okay, if they pay too much attention to the Europa League, you're going to look at like a 10th place finish. Instead, so far, Moyes has been able to kind of do a little bit of both and have great success. And I really hope against Zagreb on Thursday, West Ham basically runs out a lot of rotation guys and Alex Krall and Vlasic up top, and just kind of like really give some guys rest, because it's the top spot is secure. We don't need to risk an injury to another player at this point. But that's been really impressive, and it's going to be a favorable matchup in the next round. And it's the best thing is you don't finish second, so you don't have that like playoff thing, I guess. I forget exactly how it works. Maybe it's the third place. Every once in a while a third place team gets that. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't have to play in that like weird play-in round that I know some teams have to. If we finish first, we're straight through. So that's the best thing you could have hoped for. We'll see how long it goes, but it's kind of funny. You feel like West Ham has a pretty good chance at this point to at least continue the run beyond, obviously through the group stage, but even beyond that, pretty deep.
Yeah, that group stage game has Michael Antonio hamstring pull written all over it. So I hope they don't play him, because it is an absolutely meaningless game. Yeah, and you don't want to go there. But we have a great opportunity right now, though. We would love to hear, because the chat line was on fire. So let's see. Let's recap that Chelsea West Ham game. So I'm going to go over to you, Chelsea Mike, and hopefully, unless you kind of run with this a little bit, and then Andy, I would love to hear your response. Even though I have a feeling like this is not going to be a battle of Will and Sean or Will and Chelsea Mike. This will be probably a little bit more civil, even though those are definitely consistently a lot of fun. But that was one of the best games I can recall seeing in a very, very, very long time. And so I don't think Chelsea should take too much away from it as any sort of negative sign, but I also think that West Ham should also hang their cap on that game as well. I think it just kind of shows the difference in quality from the top 4 to the remainder of the league. So Chelsea Mike. Oh, by the way, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. We're all trying to get Mike is unable to be with us this week. His back is bothering him again. So I'm telling him he needs to go do Diamond Dallas Page's yoga. So go do some yoga, Mike. And so just wanted to share that with you. So you can also relay the same message. Get on your Diamond Dallas Page yoga, Mike, and you'll feel better. So Chelsea, Mike, take it away.
No, I will. That's probably my fault, actually. I think I hurt him yesterday. We'll talk about that later coming up. But no, I, for the life of me, still can't figure out how that Masuaku goal, the last one, the winner, went in. I mean, what happened there, Andy?
I'm still trying to
do
work
you think
out
that
how
was
Wayne
intentional?
It was not.
I'm trying to work
intentional.
out how Wayne Bridge scored that goal at Highbury all those years ago. It's one of those mysteries.
It was not intentional. He was aiming up across, and I think he skewed it a little bit, and it's one of those things that sometimes to finish, in a high place, you need a little bit of luck going your way. And
there was a beach ball.
Yeah, honestly, it kind of swerved a little bit at the end there, and it was just kind of funny, just the way it happened. But I feel badly for your netminder, just because it was like I was thinking it was a cross. He thought it was a cross. I think everyone thought coming off his foot, oh, cross, and then it goes straight into the net, which was great for me, not you. But
yeah, I know. I mean, if honestly though, that was sort of the height of the evening there. I don't think Mendy had that good a game. He could have done more on that. I mean, the first goal was almost entirely his fault. What he was doing, messing around with the ball back there. I don't know. It just seemed to me like Mendy wasn't at the height of his focus. Obviously one goal is directly attributable to him. The second one was just a freak happening. You're still going to run with him. Bad games happen.
Well, if anybody deserved to have a bad game every now and then, I think it's Mendy. I mean, the guy's been. I mean, Europe loves talking about Donnarumma and Manuel Neuer, but I mean, to not have Mendy in the same conversation every single time is really not very fair. But Mike, what do you take away from that game? Outside of Mendy's, probably he probably ate some bad dinner and didn't get a lot of sleep the night before. I mean, who knows?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, from Chelsea, we know who we are. We're the second of that is we're the champions of Europe, by the way, just to remind Will. But I think my big takeaway from that is actually West Ham is a lot better than I thought they were, and I know they've been good, and they've been kind of creeping around the top 5 for the last couple of years, but now I think they're solidly in it. And I mean, just hold on to Declan Rice, you guys. Although Andy, what did you think about Rice? It didn't seem to me like it was a really great game for him either.
Yeah. Well, everything I say is a caveat because I was out until 2 a.m. the previous, I guess, morning that would have been in Oxford, Mississippi, and I woke up with a headache. I'll leave it at that. So I was watching the match, with one eye open for that first half. The second half, I woke up a little bit more and it was a little bit more in tune, which was good. It was a better second half for West Ham. So, but yeah, Declan. I always find it really funny. There was like even West Ham's social media page was posting a highlight of a goal they scored in Europe. It was one that he scored in the Europa League, and they're like the whole thing was about like, oh my gosh, Declan Rice scored. It was a tap in, and the goal was set up by a beautiful over the top ball from Benrahma, a phenomenal touch from Antonio, and the squaring ball from Antonio. And I was just like, I feel like maybe he's a little overhyped at times. And it's like, yeah, he's really good, but I think people, maybe look at it with like, oh, he's just this infallible center defensive mid, and he is English, so he often gets fanboy attention. But I don't know, he isn't always on top of the world, and I don't think that was his best match either. Maybe that was because Mason Mount was on the other side and he didn't want to hurt his feelings, his boyhood friend. But he's still our best. He's still our best player. I mean, I won't take anything away from him, but yeah, he's not as I think people might hype him up a little bit more than he deserves to be hyped up.
I have to agree. I don't feel like if Declan Rice were to move on and West Ham were to sell him for, maybe not quite whatever his name is, the boy from Villa. I always forget his name. Yeah, I mean, I get Grealish money, but if West Ham sold it for anything close to that, I don't see them dropping off too much from that point. It could easily use that money to buy two players who are probably equally as good. So, that's kind of my take. Andy, I have to agree. Sean, what do you think?
I was just going to add that he wins hands down in the Premier League, I should say, singing his own song. And if you haven't heard him sing Rice, Rice, Baby himself, go on YouTube, because it is definitely worth watching. I think Declan Rice is a superb player. And if we had 100 million, I would get Arsenal to buy him and put him in with Partey. But there we go. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Top of my list.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. I just don't see that necessarily being such a detriment for West Ham's success. I think that's kind of what I'm saying.
I agree.
I can still see West Ham maybe not being fourth, but definitely not dangling down fighting relegation like we've seen West Ham do on multiple occasions just in the past 10 years.
Yeah. I think honestly the more pivotal player in our system is Thomas Souček. I think like he would be the bigger loss. And not to say like, I just think because you wouldn't get as much money for Souček, you'd get a lot of money for Declan Rice. And I feel like, David Moyes, his recruitment, he would know what kind of player to look at to bring in. And maybe it wouldn't be as this generational talent that Declan Rice, he's still only 22 or something like that. I mean, he has a way to go. Like this is not his finished product. You think, you assume. So he should be good.
He's one of the few England players from the Euros who hasn't petered out yet, because all the others seem to have done so. So maybe he's got that round the corner, hitting the red zone or whatever they bloody call it. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I just want to on the Chelsea front. Let's talk about the Chelsea front, because right now they scored 2 goals. And one of which was scored by Mason Mount. The other was a header from Thiago Silva, who is of course a defender, and they're generating a lot of their offense through defenders. I know that there's been some injuries, pains, tweaks, but going through the festive period, Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech, Loftus-Cheek, that being the leading front line, although they seem to have moved Loftus-Cheek into a more defensive role now. They're just not good enough, and the team just looks better when Lukaku, Pulisic, Mount, or sub out Pulisic there and Havertz, and I mean they just look way better when they actually get those teams out. So for the last couple of weeks, Chelsea's been playing hamstrung a little bit, but they got to get those guys back out there. And if they're not scoring, then they're not, they're going to have problems. They're going to have to win 1-0 all the time, which, as we saw this week, that's just not going to happen against top teams.
Yeah, or teams with a lot of grit too. That's one thing West Ham seems to have coming out of their ears. So we're going to shift gears here to MLS playoffs. But Andy, we want to thank you for coming back in. I know you got a super busy schedule, especially on Mondays. But I'm going to say, I said this to you. I said this to your parents too. It's kind of funny. I said ever since Andy has joined the podcast, West Ham has been in the best form since the Premier League has begun. So you should send them an email and let them know you got to keep coming on if they want to be successful. So Andy, though, thanks again. Great to see you.
Hey, thank you guys.
All right, and Ill Will, thank you again for joining us as well. I'm glad to have you back on the show. And as long as we still have this hour to steal, we'll just keep stealing it. So have a good one, and best of luck out there on the islands.
Yeah, we'll have fun. Have fun with the podcast.
All right, so we now are going to shift gears to something that has been, I'll even say this, it's been quite surprising as far as the fact that there is genuine interest, probably for the first time I can recall, outside of hardcore MLS fans in the MLS playoffs. I mean, you're seeing it on not just a network that has some level of interest in promoting it because of showing it on their television. I mean, I get it on my feed on my phone, and I have no filters set. It just puts whatever it wants to put up there. I don't even look at it that much. So I think the MLS playoffs have been a success from a viewer standpoint. But before any of that, what happened to Philadelphia? What's going on? And Chelsea, Mike, go ahead, fill us all in on that story, because I'm really not too familiar with what happened there.
Well, neither am I, because the team was very, very, they were very guarded in the information that they put out. I mean, we know that there was COVID exposure through most of the team. Who, why, when, I don't know. If there was an update today, I missed it, I'm sorry, but
yeah, I didn't see anything. That's why
I mean,
as a Philly fan,
they didn't, it was really weird being in the parking lot, because we were talking to people and they didn't know who was going to play. And it turned out it was none of them. Because I think going in, we thought, well, there'll be some tests and, all right, maybe we lose 2-3 people. Hopefully it's not Andre Blake. But no, it was all of them. And and that hurt the team. I mean, I think a full Union squad goes out there and just puts a licking on, because the half squad that they had, I mean, that was a great game.
How many different players from the previous starting lineup were not in this particular squad?
I think it was 5.
Wow.
I have to look that up, but yeah.
Or were they all 5 field players and not the goalkeeper as well? So.
And Blake, Blake didn't play.
Oh, so that's a huge.
And Bedoya, who's DP, I think.
Yeah, Bedoya.
So that's a huge shift. I mean, the fact that they were able to be competitive at that game should actually say a lot. Rob, what did you see? What's happening? I didn't see the game. I wasn't able to follow up with it. But Rob, go ahead and fill us in.
It's a travesty that COVID beat the Union.
Yeah, that's the way I felt.
I'm not counting, that team that plays in a baseball stadium. Screw them. All right. No, COVID beat the Union, and it's sad because, the Union did so well last season when they won the Supporters' Shield, and Jim Curtin was very adamant at the end of the season saying, we're going to lose players and we're not going to get back here, and what did Jim Curtin do? And the players that came in and replaced, McKenzie and Harrison, they basically, went to the finals, the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, this is incredible. This is an incredible story. They, the amount of turnover they had really no business to be here, but they slowly got here. They got hot at the right time, and then the damn virus screwed it all up. And now we're gonna have, and thank goodness for Portland winning, because the MLS finals could have been held at a baseball stadium.
Yeah,
it would have been atrocious. It would have been awful for the league, and they should never even have a team, because they don't have a proper stadium to put people in. So no, I feel awful, and I'm a Red Bull supporter, and we have a natural rivalry with the Union, up and down the turnpike in I-95, but I can't let City win, in New York City. I can't. I'll never hear the end of it, and neither will Mike over here.
But
we'll never hear the end of
City is doubly bad, right? Mm-hmm. New York City FC, because not only are they New York City FC, another rival in the league, and a close rival, but they're also affiliated with City.
Right.
It's the team. It's like the team that you hate the most.
Oh,
and they're
Mike,
owned by the team you hate the
right.
most.
But Mike, you could wear your Union jersey. Rob, you could wear your Red Bulls jersey. I could wear my United jersey, and we could all fight each other until we see a NYCFC player, and then all of a sudden we're Voltron. We're all going to form up against that squad. You got that right. I mean, absolutely. And I was I haven't followed it quite as closely as I should have, because DC United has been so bad. But that's a real shame. Especially a squad like Philly that they haven't won that title yet, and it seems like they haven't won that major trophy. They finaled a couple of times for what's it called again? Is it the Lamar Hunt Trophy?
Yeah, they've been in the Lamar Hunt.
Yes, they've been in that final a
Trophy
few times,
final
and the Open, and it's really a shame that damn virus had to basically completely decapitate their season, and they looked like the squad that was supposed to be representing the Eastern Conference. So, and what if that game was in? What if the final game was in Chester? That would have been fun.
Oh my God,
that would have been fun. That would have been fun. So
I had a great time. I don't know if I could afford
it.
I think I'd go broke.
Yeah.
But it is, and honestly, like I went to the game because I was like, it felt that they were the team of destiny, right? Like everything had opened up, and they had the path to the MLS Cup, and then COVID happened, which is a shame. I mean, I think everyone wants to know the story.
It will come out, but I guess you can take solace in the fact that the reserve squad. I don't know who it is. Like some of the people from Bethlehem Steel came on, and they made it competitive. I mean, it took in New York City all the way to like the 80th something minute to like just get the go ahead. I mean, and they had like almost all their players available, including one of the best center backs in the league, and Alexander Cayens, who he's also from Peru as well. And it pains me that he plays for that club, but so take solace in the fact that they really like made it a game. They had every opportunity to win it, and if they had one of those 5 players, they probably could have brought it to penalties or won it. I mean, it's a shame. It really is. And now the whole world, except for the small minority over there who are also Yankees season ticket holders, are going to be pulling for the Timbers.
Yeah. So how do we see the final going? That's on Sunday, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, you take it away first.
Yeah, I don't know. The Portland. I'm not exactly. Portland wasn't exactly dominant in the Western Conference, but then again, neither was NYCFC. I'm gonna go with my heart here, and not really my brain. And let's see those Thorn City kids take down City 2-0.
I also have 2-0. There will be a bunch of logs being cut over in Portland. I feel bad. If you're a tree hugger, do not go anywhere near Portland, because Portland is going to do well. They have the crowd. They have, and it's a legit crowd. It's not like, a lot of MLS stadiums where they have fans, but no, this is like fans, and especially in the Pacific Northwest, they party to MLS. So I go also 2-0, and I hope it's more, because please spank the crap out of New York City, please.
I would love it to be 12-0, but Sean, just in case you didn't know, that what Rob was alluding to there is the Portland goal celebration is they have a large tree trunk in the stadium, and when they score a goal, a guy with a chainsaw cuts off a medallion.
Okay, they don't do like in Scotland where they toss the cable. They don't like try and lift it up and throw it in the air or anything.
If it was in Portland, it would land on their head when they're done throwing it. But
and then what happens after the match, Sean, is like the player who gets the medallion or whatever will take it and like hoist it over to the supporter section and like thank them for it. It's pretty neat. It's very Americana, but it's beautiful.
I'll say Seattle Sounders or Portland Timbers it's probably the best place to watch an MLS game. Is probably those two places. Yeah, that's probably the best place to go.
Are you saying it's being played in their home ground, the final? Portland's home ground?
Mm-hmm.
What is that, just coincidence, or was it a draw?
No,
or-
it's not coincidence because so at one point they were doing neutral ground, but
Yeah.
it became kind of a pain because the country is pretty big, so the final, if it's played on a home crowd somewhere, I believe it's based on record, then you get a much better product on the field and on the TV as well. So
Okay.
because at one point they were doing neutral ground and they like the fans had to travel pretty far and they just really couldn't fill the stadium like they really wanted to. So that's why it's switched. Yeah, it's just the nature of the beast that the United States of America is a very large country and people have to take planes and it's expensive to fly and hotels and everything, as opposed to like England where people could take the tube.
No. Hang on, Rob. We had to go to Baku to play the Europa League final.
Yes,
2 years
that's
ago.
ridiculous. Yeah. But I'll tell you this: if the United States,
Chelsea. Sorry, that was like a 5,000-mile trip or whatever.
If the United States did have a Wembley, it would have to be in the middle of Kansas, which nobody really wants to go to as well. So, but let's go ahead and shift gears here. We just for about the last 5-10 minutes. Sadly, the drama that we were hoping to occur in the Fulham Bournemouth game has still been wasn't quite there. But let's go ahead and do a lower league wrap up as we wrap up the show.
Well, I mean, it was still a good game. I mean, yes, no, nothing was settled. A 1-1 draw.
Well, I'll tell you that the reason why I say that is because both teams have 3 draws the last 3 games. So it's like both of them are taking very, very shuffling steps forward, and they're allowing Blackburn and West Brom to creep back towards the top 2, even though it's still very clear that those 2 are the class of the league. But that's kind of what I meant. But go ahead, give us a recap of that game, because that was the lower league game of the week essentially.
Yeah, no, and a Friday night special even too, so that you can get back. First half 0-0, but Bournemouth comes out and runs a play on the opening kickoff for halftime, and Dominic Solanke, who by the way is 3rd in the championship with 16 goals now. Yeah.
He's shit.
Dominic Solanke.
If you're watching, Dominic, I'm sorry.
We'd love to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Call in sometime. We'll get you to Dominic Solanke. But no, so they ran an exceptional play and they scored 9 seconds into the second half.
Wow.
To go up 1-0. It was at Craven Cottage too. So the energy was all there for the comeback. Fulham did equalize in the 84th minute. Adarabioyo put it home. But yeah, no, it's the top two teams. Top 2 teams draw 1-1 all the time in every league.
Sadly, I know. So frustrating.
I know. That's the fun of soccer is that you don't always get that immediate gratification.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about the complete logjam at the top of League One, well, I mean, with Sean here, Exeter's still hanging around in 3rd in League 2.
Oh, that's League 2. And that's League 2.
Yeah, exactly. So Exeter's still hanging around 3rd in League 2 because it seems like everybody's 2 points away from being top table in League 1. But Forest Green should win League 2. They should. I mean, they're 6 points clear with a game in hand. They've only played 18, where everybody else has played 19. At least anybody else that's anywhere close to their point total. But Exeter's had a little bit of a slip, a loss and a draw after 3 straight. But Sean, what's the general consensus of the team in your neck of the woods?
Well, the first thing to say is I'm going tomorrow. So top of the table clash.
Pictures
Extra at home to Northampton. My son has demanded that we go and have a look at the local team. So I'll take lots of pictures and be able to give you a full report, but whenever the next pod is. But yeah, no, looking forward to it. There is general excitement that they could go the season. They've never been, well, I haven't been promoted for ages, but they've always got into the playoffs. Well, they've got into the playoffs, I think, 3 times in the last 6 years and have failed at the last hurdle. But Exeter's one of the few clubs over here that's owned by the fans. So it's a bit, it's a bit like the German model, basically.
I think I should get a
So
jersey.
couple of things happened to stabilise. One, they had a 10% sell-on clause for Ollie Watkins when they sold him to Brentford, so they got 10% of the 30 million that Aston Villa bought Ollie Watkins for. That 3 million quid keeps them going for, I think it's 2 full seasons.
Oh, nice.
So there's a bit of money coming in, which is good, which has meant that they've been able to keep. They've got a very good striker called Matt Jay. And I think they're fending off some of the League One teams, because they've got the money in the pot. But yeah, we're hopeful that the Grecians can have a good. I don't think Forest Green are uncatchable, by the way, Mike, but we'll see. Obviously, they're benefiting from Hector Bellerin's investment in their club. I think every goal they score, he's got to plant 10,000 trees or something ridiculous. But no, League Two is looking quite exciting. So I'm expecting a 2-1 victory for Exeter tomorrow night.
Well, look,
and going back to the Prem, just because I know we're going to be closing up soon. Very interestingly, Mike, and I don't understand it, the English bookies have put Chelsea back to the same odds that they were before the season started, on the back of 1 defeat. Don't get it. So lump on, mate. Lump on. 9-2 you can get on Chelsea winning the league.
I don't. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's a good tip. But it's also.
They're better than 9. They're better than a 9-2 shot to win the league at this stage of the season, aren't they? I would say. Yeah.
Which is okay. I'm sure you'd cheer for those odds.
All right. So, Mike, what's going on in League One?
What is going on in League One instead? There's 13 teams that are going to win. That are going to win it. I mean, it's a pile up. It's a pile up, is what it is, which means it's going to be fun. You got Rotherham, the recently relegated side, who've been kind of working their way up to the top and have been hanging around for a while. The thing is, when there's this pile up like this, the teams, they drop off really quick. They'll drop like 10 spots. And
well, look at how happened to Stanley. I mean,
right.
I mean, what are they? They're mid-table now.
Yeah. Mid-table. They lost 3 in a row, and then they stumbled back to mid-table. But Bolton too. We were talking about Bolton and how great it would be for Bolton to come back with all that they've gone through.
Absolutely.
And they're down there 14 with Accrington Stanley. So.
Well, Portsmouth was bottom feeding, and they've won their last 4, and now they're looking at 9th. They're only 3 spots out of the playoff. And Portsmouth is a team that's relatively recently Premier League, and granted they went into administration about 117 times, but at least they're trying to claw back. And I have I found a League One feed for my Reddit, so I'm able to actually see something that's going on over there since it really is crazy. I mean, look, I'm still pulling for Sunderland heavily, but it's funny, they're 2 points out of the lead and they're in 5th. I mean, if they sneeze the wrong way, they're out of the playoff right now. So
yeah,
I think the next 6 games, let's see what happens January 1, because I know they're going to play a lot of games between now and then. But let's see what happens there, because to be quite honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here in January 1 and there's still 13 teams with a shot to win League One.
I don't think you can count anyone over 15 out of the playoff race. And so there's going to be a lot of meaningful games. League One, though, if I can complain about the television coverage, League One is in a little bit of they're in like a little bit of a gap, right? Because obviously when they show lower league games, they usually show the championship. But on the international break weekends, we usually get League Two, because League One has kind of a half truncated schedule. So, I don't think I've certainly not seen like half of these teams. I've seen a Sunderland game. I've seen a Wickham game.
I've seen it. Yep.
But I haven't seen Rotherham or Wigan or like MK Dons or so we're We want more. Give us more content.
Yeah, agreed. Give us more. Give us more. I looking for a podcast or something where it's just, maybe a couple of teachers and a couple of random other, computer guys and stuff like that who are sitting around who want to talk League One, and have it be based out of somewhere in the UK that we can get some information on. And then, we can be one of their 17 listeners. So
they're actually doing MLS podcasts, those guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. I think we're actually going to end at 10:30. I'm a bit surprised. I figured that I would stumble through this and I would be, texting everybody to see if they can come on 5 minutes early, because I wasn't sure how I was going to handle this. But I want to thank London Sean, though. Thank you first for coming on and hanging with me throughout this show. I really appreciate you sticking around and helping me get through this. Rob, as always, thanks for the Bundesliga report, as well as your insights on the clubs that we may not know too much about coming out of the Bundesliga. Chelsea Mike, as always, Lower League Report is my favorite part of the show, and we will continue that as long as Mike allows us to. So
lower league adjacent, the FA Cup draw came out for next month.
Yes, and with FA Cup starting up to actually get more and more teams involved, I think we should definitely have a segment about that in the next show. So for Ed, we have the return of Will as well. The return of Will. So for Will and Coach G and Celtic Cam, Sean, Chelsea Mike, Bayern Rob, and Coach Matt, I am Stead, and this has been a Too Many Guys Soccer Show. We did pretty good this week, but hopefully we'll do better next week. Mike, yoga, yoga, yoga. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.